You do it with the wrong why, that's what actually leads to the unsustainable how. So your how gets hijacked. How you show up in your mission and work, the patterns, the behaviors, the addictions, the recovery, like all of it gets hijacked because your why is unhealed. It's not just about finding your why, because you can find a why. You can put meaning behind what you do. Unfortunately, for most of us, when we get really honest, why we actually do what we do is not always what we think it is.
Welcome to Hyperfocus and High Performance with Christine Howe, where we explore how you can work with your brain, build your dreams, and live on purpose with more clarity, creativity, and presence. Welcome to the podcast, Adam Cruz. I'm so excited that you're here today. Adam, you and I met at a recent event, and I talked with you about your journey in helping people to, specifically people within churches, to not burn out. Am I
Absolutely. Churches and business, just faith-driven leaders. Yeah.
Faith-driven leaders. Yeah. So tell me your journey of like, how did you get here? I know we talked about it, but we discussed your journey and how you got here. And usually you don't talk about burnout by living on the beach and doing nothing. So tell me a little bit about your journey to being a high achiever that knows how to engage your goals without burning out. That's a mission that's very dear to my heart. And so I can't wait to hear, how did you get there?
Well, unfortunately, usually it doesn't come with much self-will to get there. It usually comes through pain.
Yeah.
And that's how it is for most of us. But yeah, I had the opportunity when I was first getting started in my career. I got the opportunity to join a couple other families, and we're church planting in Wyoming, and we're able to see a church go from just a couple of families to a couple thousand in a few years. And so it was quick growth, and we learned a lot and learned what to do and not to do. But it really was what I thought I would do the rest of my life. But after 10 years of that, I went on a different track. We resigned, and my wife and I went on this kind of parallel journey. It's very weird from a timeline standpoint, but I started a tech company with a friend and ended up building tech for another decade. And so we went to the Bay Area, scaled the team out there. They're still going today. And then I joined another startup here back in Idaho and went through an acquisition with Intuit and ended up staying at Intuit. The parallel path that I was talking about that my wife and I went on was we needed to desperately heal from our first decade in ministry life. And then, we were starting another startup life. And so we were like startups again, but this time in tech, but wanting to do it differently and wanting it to not take us out like the ministry years had. But we hadn't yet gone on any kind of healing journey. And so we really ran this like parallel healing journey. What do we need to heal from? And it was very long and very painful. Didn't know if we'd make it while starting new companies. So to use your words very well, it's like you don't burn out sitting on a beach. Like, what does it look like to be ambitious and like build things and make things and touch the world and change the world and do it from like a mission driven sense and not burn out? So that was our journey of trying to figure that out for a lot of years and a lot of pain.
Your creativity is clear. Like, you're a starter. You like to build. You like to do things. You have an active mind. And I can tell already that you're in the right place with my audience. So, I serve ADHD, high achievers, and creative leaders, and people usually on a mission to do something really important with the world, but not, wanting to do it in a sustainable way, that there's resilience, there's longevity. There's not this crash that so often can happen when we go full force. And, you can't keep the hyper focus in one direction without ignoring everything else behind you. And you turn around and you're like, why are all these fires burning behind me? What happened? Yeah. And so that's an experience that I know a lot of people who are listening to this podcast will identify with. That's just the beauty of hyper focus. And, you're going and you're going hard, you're going strong, and yet there are other parts of our lives. And so what was it about that season where you and your wife were looking at each other like, something's got to change? Like, what were you noticing about what was happening inside your hearts, inside your bodies? Like, were you tired, exhausted? Like, were there health concerns, relational concerns? What was it? I'd love to introduce you to something I created specifically for brains like yours. Think Time membership is a guided neuroplanning membership designed to help you align with your design, work with your brain, and build your dreams with more clarity, confidence, creativity, and presence. Instead of forcing yourself into systems that don't fit you, you'll learn how to plan in the native, creative language of your brain using my neuroplanning framework. Love your design, then dream, decide, do, review. Inside the membership, you'll join a community of growth-oriented leaders for weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual guided planning experiences, so you'll never have to figure it out all alone. Your membership also includes access to the Think Time Neuroplanner, a whole brain visual planning system designed to help you harness the strengths of your mind instead of constantly fighting against it. And when you join, you'll receive access to the neuroplanning course and tutorials, planning tools and templates, live group coaching, monthly Q&A, and a live onboarding session so you can begin to use the system right away. If you're ready to increase your opportunity to experience more clarity, calm, confidence, creativity, meaningful productivity, and presence while getting more of the right things done in less time with peace, not pressure, visit think-time.com/podcast. I'd love to help you build a life that works with your brain, aligns with your design, and reflects what matters most.
All these signals going off. The reality is that most of us, we just ignore it all. Because for the sake of ambition and for the sake of a calling and a purpose, this is just what it takes. This is the cost of a calling. This is the cost of ambition and impact. So my life's on fire. This is what it takes. People that want to make change in the world, they don't have lives on fire because they're not making a difference. So it's almost like a badge of honor. Yeah, my life's on fire. This is what it takes. It's the cost of a calling. And so we ignore everything until we can't ignore it. And so for me, I didn't learn this till later on, and I'll maybe save this for later in our conversation. But the premise of what you get to is there's so many signals in your life that are like, if I keep going this way, this is going to end horrible. For me, that was addictions. So I had all these addictions that nobody knew. Nobody knew me. I wasn't being honest. They were wreaking havoc in my life and in my marriage. And eventually I couldn't be on stage anymore. And so for us, it was like when we got off the stage and came face to face through confession, now we had to deal with it. Now we had to deal with stuff, and you don't have the busyness anymore to mask it. It's interesting. I actually think busyness, it's a coping mechanism for not dealing with the things that are going on in our life. And so we wear that busyness like a badge of honor. It just keeps the cycle going because then you can't sustain all of that. And for us, I just couldn't sustain anymore. My eyes were twitching. My body was shutting down. I was losing my relationships. I was losing my reputation. There were so many things I was losing. I was trying to manage it all. And most of us high achievers, I was talking to somebody the other day that had a growth on their eye, and they went and visited a doctor, and the doctor was asking them a couple questions about their stress and all the things going on in their life. And he's like, I'm in the best season of my life. I'm not really that stressed. The doctor looked at me and said, that's what you all say. And it was,
yes.
Yeah, that's what you all say. So it's like, that's the tension of what it takes to finally then go, hey, I'm not well. This isn't sustainable. And this is the impact that it's having on my relationships and everything else. That then creates the permission, maybe, if you will, to start actually having real conversations. But it takes a long time for us to get to that point, and enough pain.
Oh, I love that you brought that up, that I'm in the best season of my life. It can't be going wrong right now. There's no way. One of my favorite stories, have you heard of Tommy Nelson?
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
familiar with him? So have you heard his story about burnout?
Maybe not familiar with it specifically.
Okay, so this aligns with your mission really well.
Yeah.
But it's one of my favorite stories. But Tommy Nelson, he's in the church space. And so I'm in the church space, you're in the church space. Some of our listeners may be, some may not be. But in the church space, you call it discipling if you're teaching what you know to people. And so he had developed this disciple program for young men. He was traveling probably 50 times a year. He was just going, going, going. And he was a high capacity person.
Yeah.
And he loved what he was doing. There was no like moral failing. There was no misaligned calling. The message that he teaches is you can be doing what you love, or you can be, not, it doesn't have to be something you're not loving, but if you're doing too much,
Sure.
it can shut you down. But he ended up in the fetal position in a darkness that shut
Yeah.
everything down. And it took him years to come out
Yeah.
from that burnout. And there was no sin. There was no he wasn't doing anything wrong. Wasn't, messing with the books. He wasn't messing with women. He didn't do anything. That was not what he loved even. He wasn't even misaligned on his purpose, but it was just pushing too hard over time. And I've seen this in my personal life, some dear loved ones who were doing what they love. Like when we were talking, I was like, oh, I got to have you on the podcast. This is such a heartbeat of mine. I don't think people see how burnout can mess with the rest of their lives. Like one season of intense stress can mess up decades of time and ripple effect through generations.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that. I don't think people realize that you can push so hard you have a mental break. You can push so hard that you hurt others by ignoring or hurting. Like there's so many things that this is such an under talked about issue that I love that you're in this space helping people who are high achievers, mission driven, probably enjoying what they love and not realizing they are about to be in a crash.
Yeah. Well, and there's warning signs in our lives, whether it's our pace. Most of us in this modern hustle culture too, our pace of life, frankly, is just so chaotic. There's zero margin and we just keep adding more. So what happens is because the pace of life is so busy, there's no visibility. So we're shocked when we wake up and like everything's falling apart and unraveling, but it's like there's no visibility. There's no margin to even understand how we're doing. So you just keep going. In my audience, what I recognize is that you can have the right what, to use your language with Tommy, is like the what you do can be right. Actually, a lot of times when people have this failure or whatever, it's like, oh, I should never have been in ministry or I should have never been in that role. You can have the right what.
Yeah.
But you can do it with the wrong why. And when you do it with the wrong why, that's what actually leads to the unsustainable how. So your how gets hijacked. How you show up in your mission and work, the patterns, the behaviors, the addictions, the recovery, like all of it gets hijacked because your why is unhealed. Like guys like Simon Sinek talk about finding your why, and I love it. It's good. It's the right thing. But I was reading some of that the other day and I was like, it's not just about finding your why, because you can find a why. You can put meaning behind what you do. Unfortunately, for most of us, when we get really honest, why we actually do what we do is not always what we think it is. We say we're serving in a church, trying to serve people. And what we're really trying to do is prove our dad that he was wrong about us when we were 8 years old.
It made me cry. That is so true. That is so true. There's so much of that.
Yeah.
Oh man, you tapped into that. Like I've seen this so much, and the achievement driven by these messages that are so deep and ingrained that we don't even know that they're separate from who we are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They become who we are. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you help people see that they're being driven by something like their dad's approval, whether their dad's living or not? Like, how do you help people see that that's what's driving them? And instead of like, I'm serving God, like, how do you help people discern?
Yeah, it's tricky. And I would say it's not prescriptive, and you really do know. Like, you know in your heart, if I was really honest, why do you do what you do? Tim Keller talks about, why do you really serve the poor? Like, if you were really honest with me, why do you serve the poor? Do you serve them because you genuinely are trying to help them overcome something, or do you feel an obligation to serve the poor because you know that by serving the poor gives you credibility with God, and it, the Bible demands it, and like X, Y, Z. So you're trying to live up to some standard. Your motivation for why you serve the poor is not pure. So what I help people do, there's kind of two stages. Well, the first one is you can't do any of this work until you like actually slow the train down. And again, most of us just have too much going on in our life. But once you
Yeah.
slow the train down, there's really kind of two relationships between what you do and why you do it. And that really comes through identifying what are some of the key events in my life that have shaped my motivation today. So this does require us to kind of do a look back. Like, tell me about what childhood was like. Tell me about what your teen years were like. Tell me about your young adult years. Not
Mhm.
everything is a big trauma. Not everything is a big event. Some are, a lot are, not all of them are. Some are 1,000 little traumas or 1,000 little jabs from a authority figure, or you tried something in your 20s or 30s and you failed. And so there's an identity attached to the fail. Like there's a lot of ways that's why I say I'm not prescriptive, but we just start to make a list of them. What are all the things in your life that have shaped your motivation for why you do what you do? And then the biggest and kind of hardest thing to identify is, were there any belief systems or lies that have become soundtracks in your life? And there are really kind of a common 7 or 8 of those for all of us. And
Okay.
they range from, am I safe? Am I enough? Am I wanted? Am I loved? Like, am I protected or provided for? Like, these questions create they come from real life. And so at some point you were abandoned as a kid from your parents because they were dysfunctional or whatever. So your whole life is built around, I will never need. So my motivation for why I run this business or this nonprofit or I'm in this high achieving role is that I'm never going to need anything. So I'm my own provider.
Yeah.
That motivation, here's the irony for your audience is the irony is we're all really successful because we're highly driven, high achievers. So it's really hard to argue that it's not working. It's working. It's actually working until it's not working. Like that's the craziness of it all. So, but you have to kind of wrestle with that in your life. Like, what are the lies and belief systems that I've been working from to try to prove untrue? And so all of our motivation becomes about proving ourselves worthy, proving ourselves enough, proving I've got what it takes, proving like I'm going to earn love.
Bottom line right there. I'm going to earn love.
Yeah.
Wow. And so from the ministry perspective, then there's a natural bridge to
Oh,
truth.
yeah.
So what would the truth be that you would highlight?
Well,
If
and
they're
that's what
trying
you
to
have to
earn
do the
love.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
The truth is that we have to do the work and hustle of shifting from I do this work so that I'm loved to I am loved, so I do this work. And that mental shift is harder than it sounds. It sounds like a great little punchline, and it is, but it's hard to make that internal shift that I'm going to do the work of understanding who I am and my identity. And therefore from that, I will do the work I do, as opposed to most of us spending our 20s, 30s, 40s doing the work we do so that we earn validation, reputation, identity, we're loved, we're enough, and it works and we're successful. And so then it does give us a sense of that.
It's deceptive. It makes you feel like it's working. Okay, so you just mentioned 3 big things and I wrote them down. The first thing is you covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, sorry.
Really fast. Not negatively. You get it. And you really you have honed your craft and your art. I mean, you covered some really, really important things. I'm just going to review just to shake, just to like slow down and put a spotlight on what you just said because it was so good. 3 things. What are the key events in my life, positive or negative, that shaped me, made me who I am?
Yep.
The second thing is, what are my belief systems? And you had 7 or 8 key questions. Am I loved? Am I wanted? Am I safe? Am I enough? Am I protected? Those are some of the ones you mentioned. Am I provided for? Those are such deep, deep questions. Slow down. What do I believe? What happened? What do I believe? And then, who am I? This is the identity shift. And is it, I'm doing these to earn the love, or am I doing this stuff because I'm loved?
Yeah.
And that shift is so I think that's foundational.
Yeah.
That working to earn approval, earn acceptance, earn love versus I am approved. I am
Yep.
accepted. I
Yep.
am loved. And at times, the world is not going to validate those
No.
things. And it takes that spiritual faith that God is the one who is accepting and loved. And that, even the grace that is in Christ is
Yep.
that truth that bridges the, that bridges that. There's not really another answer. So I have with my brand, I cover a lot of things, but there are some things with Think Time we don't cover because that's a bridge. That's spiritual. That's a God thing to say, I am loved when in the same time I'm being rejected, abandoned, attacked by the people in my life. And so there's a distinction between getting that from the people, circumstances, and achievements versus this is a faith-based, I'm loved, therefore I act in peace and do. So for some of my audience, that's going to resonate. For, if you are not a person of faith, that's going to be a conversation between Adam and me. And then a lot of my audience is a faith-based audience and mission-driven audience. And so, for those of you listening, take it or leave it and, filter it through your own belief system if that doesn't fit. But that's going to be the faith I think Adam and I share here, that we can't earn our way to love, that we just accept I'm loved. And sometimes the world validates that, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, and the challenge, regardless of where you come, if you're a person of faith or not, like our identity is so much attached to what we do.
Yeah.
The problem is it can't be because it's temporary. It fades. Like you won't do what you do forever. You will fail at what you do. Like if it's all attached to the work, that's an incredible burden. It's got to be beyond you. So wherever you find that, it has to be beyond you. And that's a really tough journey. And I would even say there's an event towards or a moment for us that are walking through the healed hustle or whatever, where we're dealing with this maybe for the first time. But I tell people all the time, this is a journey. It's a new way of thinking and operating. It's not a course you take. It's not a finish line. You don't graduate this and go oh, okay, now I made the shift in my identity and I made the shift. I'm healed. My motivation is healed. I still all the time am coming back to the reality that my motivation can be not what I think it is. And so I'm constantly, now that I have language, going hey, I don't think my motivation right now is in the right space. And so I need to kind of go back. What am I working from? Shift towards what the truth is about me and shift my motivation, because these little micro moments over the course of our life is what helps leaders sustain. And most of the leaders that can't sustain and can't last, we're just never taking inventory and auditing our own ambition. So it's an ongoing rhythm that is not a finish line or a one-time event. It's like a new way of operating.
I love that. I'm going to take what you just said and hearken back to two other things that you said, tie them together. So it's my belief, and I had this conversation in another interview for my podcast, but it's my belief that if you are slowing down and telling the truth, it's very hard to have a leadership crash. Would you agree with that?
When you look at those that are successful, and there are successful leaders all around us that have not had a big collapse, and not that their life's been perfect, but they haven't had a public thing, or they haven't lost, their roles, reputations, whatever. When you look at their life and you talk to them or you listen to them and what they talk about their rhythms, it is just full of intentionality. There's intentionality. And to do what you just said, to stop or slow down or not be afraid to slow down and to be honest, it's a practice of intentionality. It's not one time I slowed down. One time I went to Hawaii on vacation. It's every 6 months or a year I'm slowing down. I have a practice and a rhythm of intentionality. Yes, I am ambitious and driven and want to touch the world, but I recognize that I'm human and I'm not one-dimensional. My life and my identity aren't just my job. So I have a family. I'm a dad. I'm a brother. I'm a son. My identity is all these other things that allow me to go make space for them, but you have to slow down to make space for all that. And then to be honest, I was talking to a leader who works in this space, and we were talking about why do leaders have unhealed hustle? And what is the answer? to having a healed hustle. The reality is that all of us have stuff going on in our life. We will never be perfect. Our hustle will never be perfect. We'll never have like complete healing in our lives. The difference is people that actually are honest about it, to use your exact words, and those that aren't. And those that choose to hide and aren't honest about it. The difference is kind of mind blowing a little bit here. The only way you and I actually find healing in our hustle is through confessional living. Now, I don't mean that in the sense of only Christian or only, faith driven. I mean that in the context of like a confessional life with 2 or 3 people that know everything about you. The problem is most of us don't have 2 or 3 people in our life that we're doing that with because we have no friends. And the reason we have no friends is because we have no time, because we're so busy and we're not slowing down. So we have no time. So we have no friends. So we have no like practice of like how we're doing. So we just grit our teeth, bear it down, touch the world, crash and burn. Like I don't know. It's just a cycle.
It sounds terrible.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Grit our teeth. I love that. But you're so right. And I think if you're going to go to a party and you say, how are you to anyone?
Yeah.
99% of the time, they're going to say, I'm busy.
Busy bees.
And you talked about wearing busyness as a badge.
Yeah.
And you also linked like relationships with time immediately. So talk about that. Like talk about how could someone go from, I don't have relationships. I don't have close relationships. I need that. I need people to know who I am. Not only do I need to like do the work to know where I'm at myself, but I need to share that with others. Like how do you think people find time for that in their lives?
Well, it was interesting in my story. Like I was surrounded by people.
Yeah.
But there's like my own detriment, a guardedness, a self-reserved, a choosing not to be known. It's a choice.
Yes,
it's an intentional choice to not be known. And so you can be surrounded by all these people, thousands of people, and choose not to be known.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're lonely and I mean, gosh, I could talk about that forever, but I mean, there's a loneliness epidemic going on. The 40-year-old men suicide rates are higher than ever. Like we aren't doing well in our relationships. And for me, the beginning of my healing journey was, in fact, one counselor said, you will be hurt in relationships and you will be healed in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that is as mad as that can make you, because if we get hurt in relationships, we don't want relationships anymore, but you will get healed in relationships. And so as you find the right people in your life and you invite them in, that was our journey of practicing. I meet with 3 guys every other week, and I've been doing this for now 7 years actually, of practicing this relational, confessional, like friendship and honesty. And that's the difference. What you realize is you're not alone and you're not the only one, and it's okay. Yeah. And we focus so much on behavior and like, oh, I'm an addict or I'm XYZ or I felt in this way. And you realize that's not even the point. Like, it's not even the point. The point is like, I've got a belief system that I've been trying to outrun or outprove. And that's what's really going on. But you don't get to that until you have friends that you can process all that with.
When you were going through this with your wife, would you say that your confessional life started with her and then extended to others, or was it a different? What was your method?
Yeah, and for the first time, I mean, it was clinical help. It was like, I need clinical help. I need counselors in my life that can help me even understand what I'm feeling, and then navigate that with now partners in my life, friends or my wife that need to be brought into the journey. And so it's painful, it's humiliating, and it's hard, and not, it's not guaranteed that it'll work out anyway. And thankful for us, my wife chose to stay with me, and we were able to go through that journey together for many, many painful years. But now it's like, it's become a practice. Again, I use that language a lot because it's like, it's not an event. Yeah, there was an event. Yes, there was some like moments of confessional relationship dynamics that had to happen. But now it's like, it's the rhythm of the confessional life, Confessional is kind of maybe a heavy word, but it's just like doing life in an honest and real way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. My alliteration is just like spinning off. You have like 5 H's and 3 R's and all these things, but I heard rhythms and relationships.
Yeah.
And when you think about addiction, I think the word that we want to avoid is relapse.
Yeah.
And so what would you say? Is it the rhythms and the relationships that help you to keep from a relapse? How do you have confidence to teach others, when you've been in addiction,
Yeah.
I assume that when it wasn't just like you changed overnight, I assume
Yeah.
there were some dips along the way. Am I right? That there
Yeah.
were some relapses along the journey. So how do you have confidence today that you're not going to relapse tomorrow?
Yeah.
Or do you have that confidence? How do you work through that?
It's a good question. I processed this with a couple of counselors. One of my counselors said, I asked him, what's the opposite of relapse? Like, is the opposite of relapse, sobriety?
Yeah.
And he said, the opposite of relapse is connection. And I was like, what? And he was talking about how
Oh, it's
relapse
so
and,
good.
and all of our, again, our addictions are about isolation. They're about aloneness. They're about numbing out. They're about
Mm.
escape. The opposite of all those things is connection, relationship, depth. And from that will come different habits and different outcomes. And so much we focus so much on behavior, and it's just not the point.
That connection is the protection.
I
I
like
love
that.
that. The isolation is
Good.
dangerous. One of the things that has come out in the last couple of years that I think everyone anywhere has heard about is this Harvard study, the 75-year
Yeah.
longitudinal study, that what is it that makes a successful, healthy, long, wonderful life? And it all boils down to the depth of the connection in your relationships. And often this is within the context of married relationships, but for many people that can be in other deep, like you're saying, regular relationships. And that loneliness, I think that loneliness has been found in the research to be as damaging to our bodies as smoking half a pack of cigarettes a
Yep.
day.
Yep.
And so, I mean, people don't know that, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so if you're lonely today, which I think probably a majority of the people listening could identify as lonely right now,
Yeah.
would you go smoke half a pack of cigarettes a day? Like, no, most people are going to be like, no, I would get lung cancer. I would die young.
Yeah.
My cells would get destroyed. That's bad for me. Okay. So then here's the challenge for everyone listening. Can you just bridge that? And like what Adam's suggesting, like just schedule something regular every other week, a couple people to
Yeah.
connect and protect.
Well, and most of us have the people in our lives. Sometimes it's like, it is a real struggle. I get it. Relationships are hard. And I've got 3 kids now. I'm, older. I'm in my mid 40s. And so it's like, it's different making friends than when you're 15. So like there can be challenges with it, but I do think that we make more excuses than are fair. Like, I think there are people around us, and a lot of times they're literally our family. I met a guy out in the Bay Area who we were just starting Zemi, our tech company, and asking for some advice. And he said, just enjoy the journey. And I was asking him why that was advice and not some networking thing. And he just said, I'm on my multiple exits, very, very wealthy, and did very well in the Bay Area. And he said, I'm on my 4th marriage and my kids hate me, and I would give all of it away to have them back. And I just remember, like, that's most people. Like, the connection that means the most, those that are actually going to be at our deathbed are right next to us, but they don't pay us. They're not impressed when we walk in the room. So we spend more and more time with what Arthur Brooks from Strength to Strength, he calls them deal friends instead of real friends. They were out on vacation in Florida, and he had to take a call, and his son was like, Dad, is that a real friend or a deal friend? And he just like, so he referenced the Harvard study and was like, we're all living surrounded by deal friends, and none of us have real friends.
So good.
Yeah.
And it is like when there's not a consequence to show up, it is easier to say, wait, hold on. And I think all of us, I don't care how connected you are, we all struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'm a very connected person, but I mean, I just did that in the last 24 hours. Like, 1 second, I'm working on this, hold on. How do you help people to invest in real friends and real relationships in their family instead of like, how do you help them switch to
Yeah.
prioritizing someone that doesn't give you money or advantage or social connections, and they're not even impressed when you walk in the room? How do you help people to make that switch?
I don't claim to be a relationship expert, and I'm sure that there are some amazing like speakers and authors out there that can help with some of that stuff. But what I try to do is anchor everything in motivation. So
Okay.
the healed hustle comes back to, why do you do what you do? So it's the same with when we can be honest about why we do what we do, and we start to actually stop trying to prove, trying to earn. See, what happens is when we're trying to earn and prove, well, we need to be around people that are going to validate the thing we're trying to earn and prove. So I want to be around the business friends. I want to be around my network. I want to be around my relationships that are going to lead to more opportunity, because all of that is about validation. So I just want to spend more and more time there. I don't think it's about a number. I don't think it's about like, well, you should only work 20 hours and you should be at home. I know people that are home every night for dinner and they're not present. They sit at the dinner table and their brain is thinking about all of their work that they're going to go do. They're not present. So it's really about like, it's hard to learn that. I had to go through the painful reality that I was giving 100% to work. That sounds right. It sounds noble. It sounds like the thing you should do.
Yeah.
What boss would say, don't give 130%?
Yeah.
And I had a counselor say, Adam, what would it feel like to give 70?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, feel like? That would feel like I'd get fired. It would feel like I would like
that's the risk, right? Like that's scary.
Yeah, it's like not honorable. It's not respected. Like, what does that even look like? What does that even mean? And so we all have to answer it for ourselves. For some, they take their kids on the road and they travel together and they just invite them into the world that they're building. But I think for a lot of us, if we're honest, it's like, are you saying yes to more hours at work when you could say no? Are you staying late at the office when you could be home by 5? Are you working on the weekends when you could play ball with your kids? Like, it's sort of like, again, auditing our life and looking at what is my motivation causing me to do in the way I show up. And if I reframe it and I'm no longer trying to earn and prove, does that invite me to like say no? And then I'm going to be home more, or I'm going to be more engaged when I'm at home. And these things are hard. Like, I don't know. It's not a finish line. It's not a course you take. It's a mindset shift and it's a practice.
Yeah. I like the word practice.
Yeah.
I do. And I think practice, it leads to the word build in my mind. Like it's like a one brick at a time, just putting it in place. And then over time, these faithful bricks become a good relationship with my 30-year-old child,
Yeah.
Over time. That's awesome. The motivation piece, seeking validation piece, that feels external. I'm going to push a little harder. Yeah. I'm going to assume that you've already thought about this. What about for people who want to create a self-identity of I am a certain type of person? So there's like not this external validation, but it's actually motivated by, do you cover that? Like, I'm a giving person, so I feed the poor. Like
Sure.
how do you handle that? And how do you push, and is that an okay starting place? Like how do you take this? Because there's so much talk about narcissism and even benevolent people who do great things, who, if those great things were taken away from them, would their identity crumble?
Yeah.
Like, can you talk about some of that and the dynamics of what you're experiencing and working with people?
Yeah, we call it like the 5 stages, the 5 maturity stages of motivation.
Okay.
And the 5 stages span basically a selfishness and to others. It's kind of a spectrum.
Okay.
And, the first 3 stages of motivation are much more about like, we've all been there, or we've been those people and we've worked for those people, but they're just broken. They're selfish. They're in it for themselves. Everything is about them. What gets complicated is some of the middle levels of motivation, where you have like an insecure motivation where it looks like I'm just here to serve everybody. But the reality is that I need validation from you because I'm so insecure that my motivation isn't to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
It's still to receive validation, but it appears like I'm a servant to all. So it can get confusing. And so then we ask like, well, then what does it actually mean to be like a mission driven motive? Like what, cause we all like to say we're mission driven, but then when we get to the layers, we realize like, man, maybe that's not what's going on. But to be really mission driven, I think there's a sense of really enjoying the journey. And this is, Rory Vaden talks about peace is the new prophet. And we hear these lines like, man, do you have peace? Are you thankful and grateful? Do you have joy? Are you loving what you're doing? Are you enjoying your life? Those are just hard things to answer, and they take a little bit of evaluation. And then, the other side of that is you have servant motivated, where they genuinely are in it for others to succeed. We kind of get to this point. I think of guys like the Bob Goffs of the world who are just like, they just want to see you thrive and succeed and do well. And yeah, they're ambitious. Yeah, they're writing. Yeah, they're building and leading organizations and doing things. But there's a wrestling that's already been done in their heart that has come to a resolution that I'm in it for you. I'm in it to help you find a meaningful life and grow into the things that God has called you to do. And that is just a lot of fun. And I don't claim that I'm even there. It's just like, it's the journey of like, man, to truly be others motivated. Just takes the focus off myself. It takes the focus off of those. Am I enough? Am I protected? Will I be, taken care of? Am I wanted? Like, it's like, no, that stuff's been resolved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Resolved. Oof, man, another R. I love it. Resolved, relationships, rhythm. Those are good.
Yeah.
Those are really good. Well, if you could get on a mountaintop and say one thing, your book is The Healed Hustle. So there's a lot in there, and I can't even believe the title. I love the title, The Healed Hustle, so much, because you're working with motivated, driven people who also are interested in a whole life and who want to be healed and serving from a place of genuine love and being loved. So if you could get on top of the mountain and say one thing,
oh gosh,
to your person, and you have a whole crowd of your people, faith-driven leader, what's the one thing you would say, don't miss this one thing?
Yeah, that's good. I'm trying to think of how I would package that, but I think about it like kind of from two lenses. The first lens I want to say, because it's the truth we're all after, but we just haven't received, and it just takes a long time. And it's just that you are enough. Like, you are loved. Like, what would it feel like to rest in that? What would it feel like to go about everything today knowing that that is true? I don't have to earn it. I don't have to validate it. I don't have to prove it. So I would want people to receive that message. And it's the message I'm trying to remind myself of every day. So, the other lens I would take is I would just say, do whatever it takes to heal your why. And the Bible says that we are to protect our heart because from it, everything comes. So like, heal why you do what you do, because it will it'll affect everything that you go do and try to do. So most important thing. Yeah.
I love it. Well, it is amazing to me how often it boils down to one word.
Yeah.
It's love.
Yeah.
Love is the key that unlocks so much, even longevity and resilience and productivity and performance.
Yeah.
Starts with love. And so I'm amazed. This is not the first conversation I've had where I asked this question at the very end. It's like, well, it all boils down to love. And I'm like, again, it does. You're right.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not the frou-frou kind of weird kind of love. Like, it sounds kind of, it's interesting because it can sound kind of empty, but it goes back to the Harvard study that you referenced. It's like, where is love experienced? It's experience in relationship, experience in connection. And so it's like, it really is like the answer.
And what we receive, we can give, right? You can give the love that you've received first. And so that's a place to start, is that receiving. And so then it can flow out of you too. Well, the book is The Healed Hustle. Adam Cruz, you have been a fabulous guest. Thank you for sharing just your walked wisdom. I like to call it walked wisdom with, some of these things You can't say that. You can't say a lot of what you've said today without having walked through some very deep valleys and then really done the work to drive in, to take each step to get back up that hill. And it wasn't always by your own strength. And it's a beautiful journey. Thank you for sharing it with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find you?
Yep. So we actually take people through the 8 steps of the ambition alignment, which is the Healed Hustle process. You can start by just taking an assessment. So we have a free assessment. It's 35 questions that go through what we call the sustainability spectrum. So I didn't say this, but I'll give you just a nugget. Most of us in our business have all kinds of scorecards and metrics for how we're doing on the outer life. We look at these every day. We're ignoring the signals of the inner life, and there are signals. And so what we look at is like, hey, these signals are the things that will actually determine if you get to enjoy what you're building on the outer life for very long. So we have an assessment that looks at those 7 hidden variables of the inner life, and it takes about 10 minutes. It's really easy to do. And you get a score, you get a perspective in those 7 areas, and it'll give you kind of the next steps of where to focus now on playing that longevity game.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a great place to start. Just where am I now? Am I okay?
Exactly.
Do I need to heal my hustle, or am I already healed? Am I doing okay?
Yeah.
So that's right. So you're just going to help us answer that question right away. So we'll have that link in the show notes.
Yep.
And
get there by thehealedhustle.com.
Thehealedhustle.com.
Yep.
And we'll have that link in the show notes. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been such a great conversation, and I think it's added a lot of value. So
absolutely. Great to be with you.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and isn't a substitute for individualized medical, mental health, or professional care. Every brain is different. Results will vary. Thank you for listening to Hyperfocus and High Performance. If today's conversation helped you think differently about how your mind works, I invite you to take the next step. Visit think-time.com/podcast and grab my free training. Why can't I find a planner that works for me? If you've ever felt frustrated, judged, even by yourself, overwhelmed, or simply wondered why everyone seems to be able to follow a system that simply doesn't work for you, you're not alone. In this free training, you'll discover how your brain naturally approaches focus, planning, and productivity, and why many traditional systems were never designed for minds like yours, and whether neuroplanning could help you increase your opportunity to experience more clarity, calm, confidence, creativity, and meaningful progress with peace, not pressure. And if this episode encouraged you, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review so more brilliant, creative ADHD visionaries can discover what's possible. Remember, you don't have to become someone else to do what only you can do, because only you can be who only you can be, and otherwise there will be a hole in history. The path forward is clear. Love your design, then dream, decide, do, review. I'll see you next time.